Ivan is the fourth racer out of the gates in his class. No more than 45 minutes into the race, an oil sensor light has come on just after going through a creek crossing. Since there is no way to access the truck quickly on this part of the course, Ivan is told to keep an eye on the light and drive conservatively until the problem can be assessed. During the race, an extensive support system constantly monitors Stewart's progress. 40 crew members and support vehicles are scattered along hundreds of miles of desert. Each pit stop team is equipped to replace or repair any malfunction.
When Ivan stops in the pits, the first thing we do is jack up the back of the car and put new rear tires on, just automatically. And then we'll be putting fuel in, make sure it's nice and full, and then we'll have a person who services the driver, which is to say he gets a drink or orange or a sandwich or anything he really wants. He calls in advance to let us know what he wants, and then we'll take care of his needs. Fresh pair of goggles. And then car's all done, we'll drop him down and send him on his way.
The next portion of the race runs through desert mesas studded with armies of giant saguaro cacti, each armed with razor-sharp thorns. With a swarm of competitors nipping at his heels, Stewart maneuvers skillfully through the fields of dangerous cacti. Nearing the 100-mile mark, a mere 2 hours into the race, what should normally be a 30-second pit stop turns into a 50-second stop because of earlier concerns about the oil pressure. As a result, the Ford Trophy truck driven by Dan Smith passes Ivan. Though he pulls out of the pit only 6 seconds behind the lead truck, Ivan is forced to stay 20 seconds back due to the dust cloud kicked up by the Ford. The combination of extreme dust and water on the course had been the cause of the earlier oil temperature problem. At the highway crossing, the radiators of Ivan's truck are cleaned to help control the overheating. The dust and dirt from the Ford truck makes it difficult for Ivan to pass his opponent, and he decides to wait for the Ford to pit and then pass him up. Nearly 200 miles and 4 hours into the race, Ivan pulls into pit 2. He takes on fuel, tires, and new goggles. He is out of the pit in 28 seconds. The pit crew realizes they didn't give him enough fuel. Things don't look good. Ivan will have to make an unplanned stop for more fuel if he hopes to stay in the race. And he's already behind the leader by almost 30 seconds. In the middle of nowhere, chased by a pack of young drivers hell-bent on his overthrow, Iron Man is running on empty. He attempts to stay with the Ford, knowing he may run out of gas at any second. Finally, he gets a lucky break. The Ford pulls into the pits. After grabbing as much of a lead as possible, he stops for an emergency fuel dump. 10 seconds later, he's off and running. For the next 200 miles, Ivan pulls out in front of the closest competition. By the 400-mile mark, he has carved out a 13-minute lead. The race is Stewart's to lose. The outcome determined by mastery of his mind and will. For at speeds close to 150 miles per hour, a driver's concentration level is crucial.
As soon as you lose concentration, worrying about your elbow being sore, or if you're out of shape and you're starting to get tired, or your helmet's not fitted right, you're starting to get dust in your eyes, or you're breathing dust and a lot of things, you start making a lot of mistakes. So maintaining concentration, experience is a big factor, and I think probably the number one underlining thing for me that I think is extremely important is just sincerely love what I'm doing. I love it better when I'm in the front of the pack and winning, but I love every aspect of off-road racing.
9 hours and 45 minutes later, Ivan crosses the finish line 30 minutes ahead of his closest rival. Out of the 155 drivers who started the race, only 68 finished, among those Ivan Stewart, who celebrated his 53rd birthday by claiming the title as winner of the 1998 Baja 500.
Great course, challenging, just like we thought it was going to be. You know, the guys all precision preparation and Cal Wells and everybody that was involved, the whole team. I mean, everybody came together. TRD, the engine ran fantastic. Never had a flat. I mean, it couldn't be better. You know, it's a great day.
My wish came true again. Yeah, I read the other day in the paper that it was like our 10th victory with Toyota and 16th or 15th, something like that, either overall or class victory in the Baja 500. So it's kind of obviously my favorite race. So it was good. Great present.
Around the time Ivan was racing nothing faster than a go-kart. The Deep South was spawning its own type of racing. Souped-up streetcars driven by bootleggers and moonshiners. Those early hot rod competitions would evolve into America's most popular style of racing. For full-bore, hard-knock competition, no motorsport rivals the thunder and fury of a stock car race, where good old American sedans careen around oval tracks for hundreds of laps, hours at a time, in high-speed wars of attrition. But it wasn't always that way. When the sport started in the mid-1930s, the most successful drivers were bootleggers. Men who illegally ran whiskey from hidden stills to hundreds of markets across the Southeast. Driving at high speeds and in dangerous conditions, these men were the real dukes of hazzard. The first races were held in cow pastures, and drivers formed a track by running around an oval about half a mile around until the tires dug up enough dirt to make the course visible. Pink slips of the hot rods were often wagered, with the winner taking home the loser's car. Since those early years, the moonshiners have become CEOs and the jalopies have evolved into state-of-the-art racing machines. Stock car racing has grown to be a billion-dollar business ruled by the big daddy of racing organizations, NASCAR. And for the past decade, one of NASCAR's premier drivers has been Dale Earnhardt. Stock car racing fits Earnhardt's driving style and gutsy determination to a T, earning him a variety of nicknames: Intimidator, Man in Black, and Old Ironhead.
Well, I think Dale Earnhardt, you know, he's such a determined individual. You know, he wants to do good at everything. Those last 50 or 100 laps, when you think you've used every bit of the energy in your body and your mind, that's when you got to dig deeper and put everything out of your mind except winning, and that's what separates Dale from a lot of the other drivers.
Throughout the 80s and early 90s, Earnhardt won a stretch of 70 races. He is a 7-time NASCAR Winston Cup champion and just may be the best stock car racer of his generation. But by the start of the 1998 season, he and his team had fallen on hard times, failing to win a race in 59 tries. And to make things worse, the first race of the season was the Daytona 500. In 20 attempts, Earnhardt has never won this race. This was his Waterloo. 20 races, 20 losses. But they don't call him Ironhead for nothing. Earnhardt is determined his 21st race will be when he breaks the Daytona curse once and for all. In every race, Dale Earnhardt risks his life. But when it comes to waging his war on wheels, he is not alone. The banging and bruising nature of stock car racing has made the pit crew an essential ingredient to victory. For often, the war on the track is won by the battle waged in the pits, where time is the enemy.
I think a lot of times people or the fans don't view them as athletes, but they have an ability, and a lot of times their ability to me is a lot like a good quarterback or a good pitcher or something like that. It's not necessarily something that you can teach them. Yeah, they can practice and they can get better, but I think it also has to be an ability that they just have within them.
The field of battle, an area the size of a parking space. A protective wall borders the pit. NASCAR rules restrict the number of crew members allowed to cross the wall to 7. So the challenge of servicing a car as fast as possible is a science of divide and conquer. A pit crew has to function like a well-oiled machine with 7 independent but synchronous parts. The entire process is broken down into separate jobs. Each crew member is assigned his responsibility. Fast pit stops are such an integral part of winning a race that there are now competitions just for the pit crews. Each year, NASCAR teams compete in the Unocal 76 World Champion Pit Crew Race. Competition is heated and rules are strictly enforced as the crews battle it out for the honor of fastest pit crew in the world. During the mid-1980s, Earnhardt's team took home the trophy 3 years in a row. In the 90s, they continue to prove that they're the team to beat.
Okay, everybody all set? Ready to go. All right, 5 on, be smooth. Hit your marks.
Pit crews train to keep in fighting trim for the blitzkrieg pace of race day, always trying to find ways to be faster. Refuel the car, jack it up, change the tires, wipe the windows, fix whatever needs fixing, all in around 17 seconds.
That's a good one.
These guys are the best and proud of it. Saving a second or two in the pits may not seem like a big deal, but it is. On the track, moving at 180 miles an hour, a stock car travels roughly 100 yards every second. This can mean the difference between first and fifth place is often less than a second. Over a 500-mile race, seconds saved in the pits can win the race for a driver. It's often easier to pass a driver with a good pit stop than to spend 30 or 40 laps on the racetrack trying to outmaneuver him. Each member of a pit crew works under the pressure of knowing that one mistake can mean the race. But if they can help shave 1 second off a pit stop, it could put their team closer to the checkered flag.
Well, you know, when we do a pit stop, it's just teamwork. There's no one person any more important than the other person. I mean, the guy that cleans the windshield or stops the car with a stop sign. It's all a team effort. It's all teamwork.
Some of Earnhardt's guys grew up around racing. Others were just lucky to get the job. If jumping over a protective wall to work on a car driven by someone called Ironhead can be called lucky.
The first time I ever went over the wall, I thought I was going to throw up. It was unbelievable. The adrenaline was pumping, and I was ready to go. And now it's a good job, and it's exciting. You can't ride a roller coaster anymore. What could be more exciting than jumping out in front of Dale Earnhardt?
Earnhardt's team works the major league of stock car racing, the Winston Cup circuit. It's a grueling schedule of 29 races on 15 tracks spread across 12 states.
Most weeks I probably put in, physically I put in probably 60, 65 hours, but you know, when you're in Winston Cup racing, especially if you're on the crew chief side of it, you really never quit working. We travel on Thursday afternoon, check in on Friday, and normally Friday at the racetrack is devoted to qualifying, and then Saturday we have a couple of practice sessions, mainly getting ready to race. We always get an hour practice after that race, which is what we call happy hour. Sometimes it's not happy, but it's our final practice before the race, and then Sunday's the race, and normally the cycle just keeps going right back over again.
Becoming a member of one of racing's most elite pit crews is no easy task. Positions rarely become available, and when they do, candidates go through a rigorous tryout session. No coat and tire required for this job interview. There's only one thing that matters: speed. After a successful solo tryout, the new man is then scrutinized as he practices with the team.
But you never even have to take it off. If you lay it right there, then you never even have to look. Same place. Especially when they drag it back, if the gun's up here, it'll go like that.
One time the tire hit it and kick it up through
Right.
the legs. And
So I'm trying to get them here. Once they do that, just lay it right there, do this, and never even have to look. You're still concentrating on the studs.
Like a football team, each member has been given a position and responsibility that fits his physical characteristics. And like the guy responsible for jacking up the car.
My name is Michael Moore. During a race, I'm a jackman.
Jackmen need to be lightning quick when moving from one side of the car to the other. Jackmen are often picked for their speed and forearm strength needed to pump the car up with one blow of the jack handle.
Craig Lund, I change tires on race day, rear tires.
I'm Jerry Haley. During the pit stops, I'm the front tire carrier.
David Lee Rogers, rear tire carrier.
My name's Jack Lewis, and on Sundays I change front tires.
Tire changers. These guys are often small but with big shoulders to muscle heavy tires. Blessed with low centers of gravity, tire changers can get into a crouched position fast and change a tire in seconds. The heavyweight on the team is often the gas man.
My name's Danny Chocolate Myers. I'm just a general mechanic, and I put the fuel in on Sundays.
This guy has to have the strength to handle two 11-gallon tanks of gas and wait for his car to pit with 90 pounds hoisted on his shoulders. Stock cars take 22 gallons, so he has to be able to empty both cans in seconds.
We have a trainer that comes in here twice a week and work with these guys, and they work on things that particularly are about these guys' particular job. For instance, they work with the tire changers on their arms and hands and reflexes. They work with the jack man on his legs and upper body strength. They work in particular with the gas man on his upper body strength.
Pretty good there. Well, I mean, the rear was killer. 1578, that's almost perfection.
Like many sports, the toughest part is maintaining concentration, especially difficult when every second can be the difference between first and second place. The pit isn't the only place the team works to shave seconds. The age of computers and aerospace materials has propelled motorsports into the stratosphere of high technology. But when it comes to technical advancements, NASCAR applies the brakes, believing its popularity is based on the original concept of a stock car.
That's been the whole claim to NASCAR Winston Cup racing, is it's a stock car. The guy in the stands that's cheering for Dale Earnhardt, he can say Dale drives a Monte Carlo just like I've got parked out in the parking lot. NASCAR does a really good job at trying to keep it that way. We're a little bit different from the champ cars and drag cars and Formula One cars, is NASCAR, our sanctioning body, will not let us do no onboard computers when we're there practicing, qualifying, or racing. The only computers we have at that point is what we know about the car. Our driver's our biggest computer, and our stopwatch that tells us how fast we're racing.
They used to be stock cars straight off the dealer's lot, but today they are far from it. Aside from the shape, a Winston Cup race car has little in common with its showroom namesake. And engineers are always trying to push the machinery to the edge of what's permitted.
Yeah, we'll probably have this 10-foot on and off 50 times a day before we're done. So, yeah, we're just, like I say, trying to maximize the shape of the body best we can, and it's in the allowable tolerances.
Their goal is to turn a family car into a 180-mile-per-hour race car. New designs are road tested on the computers before they ever see the track. These race cars are not made on an automotive assembly line in Detroit. They are custom built in specialized shops around the country, a process that demands great skill and intensive labor. The work starts with the bare tubular frame chassis. Next, pieces of the body are welded onto the vehicle. It takes about a week to hand build each car body, and then another week to finish fitting out the car with electrical wiring and other equipment. Each team is looking for that little bit of an edge that will help capture the checkered flag. Aerodynamic spoilers are standard, and engines beefy enough to push these 3,500 pounders to over 200 miles an hour.
Our motor is basically a 350 engine. They let us bore it out just a little bit, and it's 355 cubic inches. It makes, when we don't have to run the restrictor plate like Daytona and Talladega, it makes up around 700, 720 horsepower. So that's probably, triple or better of what your passenger car Monte Carlo runs.
Even under stringent rules, race teams are always struggling to find ways to suck a bit better gas mileage or higher RPMs out of their cars.
We have a lot of secrets that we can't tell you about. Everything that can be lightened up's lightened up. Everything that's a specialty piece, the rods, the cranks, the pistons, the valves, the springs, they're as durable as they can and made out of the best material that they can be made out of, just so we can abuse them. You might drive your Monte Carlo down the street, and if you're going 55 miles an hour, you might be turning 14 or 1,500 RPMs. We ran 9,100 yesterday, would be our maximum RPMs. These things here, but they're built for real short distances. I mean, 500 miles, this thing is done. Your car should last 100,000 miles.
Stock car racing has been described as chess on wheels. While a race may seem like chaos to the inexperienced viewer, it's actually made up of hundreds of individual contests and strategies. Stock car drivers have developed their own vocabulary to describe their sport. Before each race, the car is set up for the conditions of that particular track. When a car enters a corner, centrifugal forces push the car to the outside while the driver wants to go straight. If he is having troubles in the turns, this means the car is either loose or tight. In a loose car, the driver feels as though he's driving on a sheet of ice. The rear wheels want to spin out wide. One way to pass a car that's running loose is to get right on its bumper. When the cars are running bumper to bumper, the second car changes the way the air flows over the first car. It takes wind off the first car's spoiler, which in turn loosens the first car's back end, making it harder to handle. This is called racing hard. The opposite is a car that's running tight. When this happens, the driver is constantly jerking left on the wheel as the front of the car wants to head towards the wall. So if a car is properly set up, it's able to maintain a higher average speed throughout the race, and as a result, has a better shot at winning. Another method for getting more out of a car is known as drafting. If a driver begins to run low on fuel, he can follow about a half car length behind or draft another car. The first car creates a vacuum which leaves less air resistance for the trailing car to fight. Less air resistance means less fuel is needed. The leader also benefits from drafting as the trailing car pushes air, helping the first car to go even faster. Drafting can also be used to set up the classic slingshot pass. Using the vacuum set up by the first car, the second car slams the accelerator and then moves inside past the other car. Sometimes drivers who are teammates will use the drafting technique to pass an opposing driver. It's often been said the pit is the most dangerous area on the track. The necessity of doing a difficult job fast within the confines of the pit, coupled with cars speeding by only a few feet away, creates conditions ripe for accidents.
Pit stops are extremely dangerous, but you have to be focused on what you're doing. We focus on the lug nuts and we focus on the tires and we focus on what we're doing. It's kind of like a rock climber. He doesn't focus on falling. He focuses on his next ledge and what he has to do next. And that's what we try to do, is focus on what we have to do next and just ignore the danger. It's there and we're aware of it. We just try to work around it.
Those guys going across the wall, handling 22 gallons of fuel and changing tires with other race cars running right at their heels 60 and 70 miles an hour. Like I tell these guys, especially places we go where pit roads are really very narrow. You know, we want to have the best pit stops we can, but we'd rather have a 30-second pit stop than end up with one of you guys getting hurt.
You can't have any fear in this business. You just have to jump out and not be scared.
Similar to combat veterans, pit crews often have the best recollections about the worst of times.
Mike Moore, our jackman, once got his finger caught in the jack, and that was pretty exciting. And his comment to us was, "I hate to slow the pit stop down, but my finger got in the way."
Somehow I got my finger stuck up on top of the jack, and when I pumped it, it squished my finger between the car and the jack. And I thought it was just my glove, because everything's happening so fast with the adrenaline flowing. So I just ripped my Velcro off my glove and pulled my hand out, and then they continued on with their stop. And as soon as I let the jack down, I looked at my hand and my fingertip was gone. Nail, fingertip, the whole deal.
It's the largest picnic in the world. 150,000 fans make the yearly pilgrimage to Daytona Beach, Florida for the Daytona 500. This race is the World Series and Super Bowl of stock car racing all in one. The 1998 race began as most expected. 26-year-old defending champion Jeff Gordon was in the lead. Far back in the pack was Earnhardt. But Earnhardt and his pit crew wouldn't give up. Running door handle to door handle, bumper to bumper, Earnhardt gunned and banged his way up through the crowd. On lap 123, he gained the lead. But in past Daytona attempts, it had often been those last few laps when fate reached in and snatched the checkered flag from Earnhardt's grasp. With 27 laps to go, the caution flag came out and Earnhardt took his last pit stop. His crew worked feverishly. It was now or never. Earnhardt was out of the pits first. In one of the most emotionally charged finishes in the history of motorsports, Dale Earnhardt, whose racing achievements are the stuff of dreams, did something he hadn't been able to do in 20 years. He won the Daytona 500.
That was unreal. You can't put into words how exciting that was. For the last 20 laps, we were just watching thinking, wow, what's it going to be this time? Are we going to run over something on the racetrack? Is the engine going to quit running on us? Are two guys going to get together and pass us on the last lap? We've lost the thing so many times.
I got to tell you that it was probably the most exciting thing that's ever happened in racing for us. And you know, I'm sitting there and we're out there and we're jumping up and down and we're high-fiving and we're doing all this stuff.
Winning the Daytona 500 was probably one of the sweetest victories of all, even some of the championships and all, because I knew what it meant to his career and to all the guys that worked here and put out so much to try to win that race year after year.
These guys that go across and perform those pit stops in 17 seconds, the fabricators that's here that build these race cars, I almost call them craftsmen, because you look at these cars, you see how much talent there is. The guys in the research and development department that's working on stuff for us for 2 to 3 years to come, that's what makes it possible for us to go out and win races like the Daytona 500. We do it as one big group and as a race team.
While the Deep South gave birth to stock car racing, a new species of supercar was coming of age in the deserts of Southern California. These were the first hot rods, making speed runs on the dry lake beds of Southern California and pioneering a new age in motorsport that would soon be ruled by today's nitro-burning dragons called top fuel dragsters. Explosive speed and heart-pounding excitement. Little wonder drag racing has been called the greatest show on wheels. Perhaps no motorsport is as pure a byproduct of American culture as drag racing. The following World War II, car buffs flocked to locations in the Mojave Desert just east of Los Angeles. It was there where mechanical know-how combined with an unbridled desire for speed resulted in the birth of the hot rod. In July of 1959, Santa Ana, California opened the first organized drag strip in the country, with races down a quarter-mile track. Suddenly, drag strips began to appear everywhere. Drag racing supremacy came to be defined in two ways: the quickest time elapsed from point A to point B, and the fastest speed reached. Today, drag racing competitors still strive to be both the quickest and the fastest. Much of drag racing's appeal lies in its pure, uncomplicated nature, a contest of acceleration down a quarter-mile track. But atop this drag strip of simplicity, drag racing in the 90s is a technology-driven multi-million-dollar industry. The three top classes of drag racers are Pro Stock, Funny Cars, and Top Fuel Dragsters. Pro Stock are souped-up gasoline-powered street cars. They're the slowest of the hot rods, doing 0 to 60 in all of 5 seconds. Extremely quick when compared to your average street car, but not against the other dragsters. Then there are funny cars. Take away the fiberglass covering, and there is nothing humorous about these nitro-burning speed demons. But for the ultimate in power and speed, nothing beats Top Fuel Dragsters. These cars couldn't take you to the corner grocery store or even negotiate the neighborhood cul-de-sac. But no other car can touch them when it comes to straight, gut-wrenching acceleration. Along with funny cars, top fuel dragsters are the fastest race cars on Earth. Both repeatedly cover a quarter mile at speeds in excess of 300 miles per hour.
These cars go 0 to 100 in 1 second, and they pull 5.5 Gs, which is more than the space shuttle at takeoff. And it's a great ride.
Meet Shelly Anderson, a nitro-breathing woman with racing in her blood. Anderson has won 4 top fuel national events and became the fastest woman on wheels when she claimed the speed record in 1997, flashing down the track at an astounding 317 miles per hour. In 1998, she hopes to beat her own record. Like many racers, Shelly Anderson's goal in life is dictated by one simple objective.
I want to race. I want to win. I want to be the world champion. I've really got those goals. And I think I've had those goals for so long that they have to come first right now.
Shelly and her brother Randy were practically raised around the fire and thunder of the drag strip. Her father, Brad Anderson, raced dragsters for over 20 years and won 3 Winston Top Alcohol Funny Car Championships in the 1980s.
Shelly and Randy, we used to race the local racetracks, Irwindale and Orange County and Fremont and Sacramento, California. They'd go with me on weekends, so they literally were at the races when they were in diapers.
Shelly's first racing job was working on her father's pit crew. Even as a young girl, she showed a mechanical know-how that has served her well.
Shelly and I was going to Bakersfield for the warm-up, and my car got a flat tire. So when we pulled off, Shelly was changing the flat tire, and a very nice truck driver pulled over to see if he could help us. And she told him no, that she had it all under control. So he stood there and watched her the whole time, and he couldn't believe that this little girl could change his tire.
Bracket number 1. By the way, the scales are open. If you need to weigh your vehicle, the scales are open.
I never played with dolls when I was a little girl. Never. I mean, no, I wanted my brother's Hot Wheels, and I wanted to play with our friend's slot car track, and we had the Hot Wheels always down the hallway with a kitchen chair. You know, there was a starting line and went down the hallway, and yeah, I mean, rode bikes, played football, played field hockey. Yeah, I was probably more of a boy than I was a girl at that age.
Real tomboy, always in trouble. I didn't even know how much trouble she was in school until later years. What's the right word that you use for when she's in detention, I guess? She was always on detention and stuff for beating up a boy or something.
Today, the entire Anderson clan is part of both the business and sport of drag racing. The Andersons own a racing engine company, and Shelly's brother Randy is a successful funny car driver.
I grew up around funny cars. That's what Dad raced, so I've always had more of a liking for them. So I think, you know, and she likes the dragsters, and I think it just worked out well that way.
Shelly drives a typical top fuel dragster. If a vehicle generating 30 times the horsepower of a normal car can be called typical. To power this beast, a potent mixture of nitromethane and alcohol is used and makes it nearly a bomb on wheels.
Drag racing's great because the horsepower. My car has 6,000 horsepower. Average street car, probably 200, less than 200 actually. This is 6,000. You sit in it and you're strapped in as tight as can be, and each car's built for the driver. The tighter the car, the safer the driver when I crash or when you crash.
Still, horsepower is useless if the tires smoke or the engine blows up as the car accelerates off the starting line. The nitromethane fuel gives an incredible burst of power, but to keep the volatile compound from burning engine parts, it has to be mixed with the right amount of alcohol. If the fuel balance isn't perfect, it can blow the engine. Racing a dragster involves more than just smashing your foot down and hanging on for dear life. To win, a racer has to overcome two basic challenges. The first occurs within a few feet of the starting line. It's called driver reaction time. On average, it takes the human body at least 0.5 of a second to translate a visual signal into physical movement. Five-tenths of a second is also the timing of the countdown lights called the Christmas tree. If Shelley reacts to the last yellow light, she'll pull a perfect time and stand a chance of winning. If she reacts too quickly, she'll jump the gun, red light, and lose. The key to winning races is for the driver to get in sync with the timing lights and nail the starting sequence. Not an easy feat when you're strapped into a 6,000 horsepower monster that sounds like an erupting volcano.
Once both of you are staged, the starter flips a switch and activates what we call the Christmas tree, it's the starting line tree. And if you wait till green, you're late. When all those three yellows in the middle light, go.
Even if Shelley's reaction time is perfect, she may still lose. Driver reaction time is only part of the high-speed equation. The other is how quickly the machine will convert horsepower into forward movement. One way engineers have increased vehicle reaction time is through maximizing tire adhesion. Big, slick, and expensive, these tires cost around $5,000 a pair. Before each race, the driver heats the tires by performing a burnout. The heated tires are more malleable and will grip the pavement better. As the dragster approaches the starting line, the tires look underinflated, and they are. Less air pressure gives better traction, making the car quicker off the line. But too little air in the tires will increase drag and slow acceleration. So it is up to the technicians and crew to determine the optimum level of tire pressure for the conditions. These vehicles are so powerful that when you hit the throttle, the wheel rim rotates before the tire even moves. This places incredible amounts of force on each tire. To withstand such a beating, the tires are designed to flex, the sidewalls narrow and expand vertically. And when everything goes right, there's no better feeling than being smacked breathless by the force of 5 Gs.
You sit there at the starting line, and when you see the yellows to leave on, you hit the throttle, and you feel it all right here in your chest. It's like a bowling ball hitting you, just right there, and it's a great feeling. Because if it doesn't plant you against the seat, you're not going anywhere. And if you can breathe or move forward half track or 3/4 track, that means you're still not going anywhere. You know, the car left good, but it quit. It dropped a cylinder. It'll move around when it does that, or it just laid down. It didn't go nowhere. So you want that feeling in your chest the whole way. And when you pull your chutes and the rear end comes off the ground, and it's a good feeling. I mean, everything's gone well, and it's a nice run.
In 1 second, a top fuel dragster will reach 100 miles per hour. By 3 seconds, 250. In 5, over 300. But speed is relative. Drivers say the blistering moments seem to elongate. This phenomenon is called time dilation.
It seems like a minute and a half going down the track, and it's a good feeling. Yeah, it's slow motion. It's something your mind would do, and everybody's, if you gave it that opportunity. It speeds up, and I talk to myself going down the track, full sentences, and I can get out at the end of the track and tell you what I said, and you're like, no, you didn't, not in under 5 seconds, but yeah, I honestly did. Your mind speeds up. Downhill skiers say they get that effect when they're going fast, slow motion, and people that have had a lot of car wrecks say when they were in the car wreck, it was in slow motion, and it's what it is. It's slow. And when I have my wrecks, they're even slower. So you really do. It's like sitting out and watching it. It's neat.
Shelley's had her share of close calls and near misses. One of them was at a race in Minnesota. She had just come off a good series of runs. It was one of those days when everything seemed to be going smoothly.
We were racing in Brainerd, Minnesota, and the car at about, I'd have to think now, about 400 feet out started to smoke the tires, and she pedaled it real fast. Well, when she lifted, the clutch finished locking up, and as she floored it, it hooked up and the car went right over backwards. And it was like she didn't have a chance.
I remember when it went up, what I said, tuck your thumbs. Because when it rolls, I drive like this. It'll take my thumbs off. So I did. I said, tuck my thumbs, and I just put it on the bottom of the steering wheel. And it hit the first time, and I went, oh, not bad. That was stupid, because when it hit the second time, then it hurt.
Well, when Shelley had the blowover, I didn't know it, but at that time she had separated some ribs, and because the next day when I was strapping her in a car and I would pull the seatbelts tight, I seen her winching a little bit, and I said, "A problem?" Nope, I'm fine. And it wasn't until about a week later I found out after she got home, she went to a doctor and she had separated ribs and stuff, so she's pretty tough.
The blowover was caused when Shelley's car lost power. Normally, the tremendous engine thrust keeps the nose of the dragster pinned to the ground. But when the engine burns out, or in Shelley's case, misfires, the resulting loss of downward air pressure on the nose causes the front of the car to rise, producing a backwards catapult, or blowover. Physicists say blowovers should be common with cars shaped like these. Of course, physicists also said a car could never exceed 300 miles per hour within a quarter mile. Dragsters love proving science wrong. The 1998 season was Shelley Anderson's worst. It wasn't her driving or her determination. It was her car. For all their power, dragsters are delicate beasts, as fragile as fireflies.
Last year we set the world speed record twice, and this year we haven't even ran what we ran last year. So to say it's been disappointing, yeah, it's been hard on everybody.
Throughout the season, Shelley's car was plagued with misfires, burnouts, and engine malfunctions.
I come back from a race that's been really bad, and I answer the phone at my dad's business, and everybody wants to know what's wrong with my car and what's going on with my car. And if we knew what was wrong with it, we'd change it. And I'm really tired of the questions. You know, you get real short, and it's like, I don't even want to answer the phone.
Please, Joey Pierce to the staging.
All of Shelley's skill and courage was useless. Time and again, through the first 4 races, all she earned was the dreaded did not qualify, or DNQ.
We've experienced the real lows of racing, and everybody has them. I don't care what kind of racing it is, but if you're a competitive racer, you don't accept it.
I take it hard, but I don't take it out on other people. I try not to, especially the race fan. I still go out and sign autographs. I have to. It's not their fault my car's not performing.
Shelley is determined to ride out her string of lousy times and bad luck. With her family by her side, she knows she has the team to do it.
And I still feel our team's better than what we've done. I know it's better than what we've done. It's gotten better the last 3 races. I still haven't given up. I'd like to win a couple of races this year, finish in the top 10. We're a third of the way done, and that is possible. But we've got to turn it around now. I know that. The crew knows that. They've worked so hard. My sponsors have been wonderful. They've also told me, they expect more, and I don't blame them. I do too. It's a good team. That's why it's amazing we've done so bad. But hopefully we'll turn things around soon.
After 7 years of racing in Top Fuel, this has easily been her most disappointing start. Testing revealed that the car had several problems. After making the necessary fixes, Shelley and her team continue to push for that elusive win. Whether coming from the driver, the engineers, or pit crew. That winning feeling is the true power behind racing. As motorsports blast across the starting line of the 21st century, you can bet it will be in supercars that are quicker, stronger, faster, and driven by men and women with that endless urge to win.